Welcome back, you guys, to another deep dive into To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
This time we're turning to chapter 24.
Okay.
And we're going to see Maycomb trying to get back to normal after all the emotional stuff with Tom Robinson's trial. It's kind of like watching people try to pretend like a big problem never happened. You know what I mean?
It really is, like sweeping it under the rug, trying to get back to normal when things have fundamentally shifted.
Yeah. And we're back with Scout in this chapter.
Okay.
And she gets thrown into this situation that really shows those two different worlds of Megan.
Okay.
It's a missionary circle meeting at Aunt Alexandra's house.
Got it.
Can you imagine Scout all dressed up?
Oh, yeah.
Not her style at all.
Yeah.
Surrounded by all these fancy Maycomb ladies sipping tea.
Totally different than hanging out with Jem and Dill.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What do you think about this whole scene?
I think it's a really smart way for Harper Lee to show us how different Scout's world is from the world of these women. You know, she just saw all that awful racism and injustice at the trial.
Right.
And then you have these ladies worried about being proper and, you know, what's happening to this tribe far away.
Oh, yeah. The Marooners.
The Marooners, exactly.
It's almost like a play, the way Mrs. Merriweather talks about how hard their lives are.
Right. Living in those huts and all.
Chewing on bark.
It's all very dramatic.
Yeah.
But I think that drama is really important. It shows how ironic the whole thing is.
Oh, how so?
Well, these women are super concerned about people they've never met.
Right.
But they're totally blind to the suffering that's happening right in their own town.
That's so true. It's like they're trying to feel good about themselves, but they don't want to actually deal with the hard stuff.
Exactly. It's easier to care about people far away than to look at the problems that are right in front of you.
And Mrs. Merriweather, she's like the poster child for this whole thing.
Oh, yeah. She's all about Christian values and forgiveness.
Right.
What she says and what she does are two completely different things.
Totally. Like when she criticizes Tom Robinson's wife for complaining about her situation.
Right. Like, how dare she have feelings about this whole thing?
It makes me so mad.
It's awful.
It's like she thinks black people should just accept everything and not say a word.
It's like she doesn't even see them as real people with real feelings.
Ugh, it's infuriating.
But you have to remember, Mrs. Merriweather is like a lot of people in the South at that time.
Yeah, I guess.
Her ideas might be messed up, but they were pretty normal back then.
And that's what Atticus is up against.
Exactly. He's fighting against a whole way of thinking.
And then there's this moment when they ask Scout what she wants to be when she grows up.
Oh, yeah.
And Miss Stephanie, completely missing the point, says, well, you've already been to court, so maybe you'll be a lawyer.
Oh, wow. Talk about not reading the room.
Right. That's like she doesn't even realize what Scout just went through.
Totally. And Scout's answer is really interesting. No, I'm just a lady.
I know. What do you think she means by that?
I mean, on the surface, it sounds like she's just being polite. Like she's shutting down the conversation.
Right.
But I think it's more than that. Knowing Scat, she's probably pushing back against the expectations they have for her.
That's a good point. Remember, she spends the whole book defying gender roles.
Exactly. She'd rather wear overalls than a dress.
And she loves hanging out with the boys.
And her hero is her dad, who's all about justice.
So maybe saying she wants to be just a lady is her way of rebelling.
Maybe she's saying, I'm not going to be the kind of lady you want me to be.
I like that. That's like a quiet protest.
Exactly. A way of saying, I'm going to do things my own way.
And Miss Maudie's there too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, quietly supporting Scout.
Yeah, she's such a good contrast to all the judgment and prejudice from the other women.
She's like the voice of reason in that room.
Absolutely, and then boom, Harper Lee drops this huge bombshell right in the middle of their polite little gathering.
Oh, you mean when Atticus tells them about Tom Robinson?
Yeah, it's like she's ripping away the curtain and showing us the ugly truth.
It's jarring. The way he just casually mentions that Tom got shot trying to escape.
17 times.
17 times?
It's
just
awful.
It's heartbreaking.
And the way Atticus says, what was one Negro, more or less?
Yeah.
It's like Tom's life didn't even matter.
It's like he was invisible.
And that's the whole problem. That's what Atticus is fighting against.
And poor Aunt Alexandra. She's so upset.
Yeah.
But Atticus says, depends on how you look at it. What's that supposed to mean?
I think even though he's sad and frustrated, he's still thinking about the bigger picture.
Oh, okay.
He knows that fighting for justice is a long, hard road.
Right.
Tom's death is a huge loss, but it's just one battle in a much bigger war.
I see, so he's not giving up.
No way Atticus Finch doesn't give up that easily.
And Miss Maudie? She's so great when she comforts Aunt Alexandra.
Yeah, what did she say? We trust him to do right.
It's that simple.
She really believes in Atticus.
I know. It's like they know what he's doing is important, even if everyone else is ignoring it.
And that support must mean the world to him. It's like they're saying, we see you, we hear you, we're with you.
It's a good reminder that even when things are tough, there are still good people fighting the good fight.
Absolutely. And then it's like nothing even happened. The ladies just go back to their gossiping.
It's crazy.
It's like Tom Robinson's death is just a blip on their radar.
I know. It's like they can just shut off all those feelings and pretend everything's fine.
And that's what makes it so unsettling, because it shows how deeply ingrained this kind of apathy is.
It's like they've learned to ignore the bad stuff so they can keep living their comfortable lives.
And that's what makes you wonder, like, if they can so easily dismiss Tom's death,
yeah,
what hope is there for real change?
And then Scout, watching all of this, she says, after all, if Auntie could be a lady at a time like this, so could I.
That's a huge moment for her.
I think so too. What do you think's going on in her head?
I think she's realizing that she doesn't want to be like these women.
Really?
I think she's seeing how fake and shallow their world is.
Wow.
And she's deciding to choose a different path.
No, you're right. It's like she's choosing her dad's way of life.
Exactly. Choosing authenticity and integrity, even if it means things will be harder for her.
She's a brave kid.
She is.
It's amazing how much she learns and grows in this book.
I know. It's one of the things that makes it so powerful.
Definitely.
And it makes you wonder what's going to happen next.
For sure.
This missionary circle, it's not just some random get-together.
Yeah.
It's like a mini Maycomb, you know?
Yeah.
It shows us what these people really think.
Yeah. Like we're seeing behind the curtain.
Exactly. They have their little rules, their way of doing things.
Their whole worldview.
And in that world, there's a big difference between us and them.
Right.
Like the Maroonahs, those faraway people, they're safe to feel sorry for.
Yeah.
That way they can feel good without rocking the boat.
But when it comes to their own neighbor, black neighbors forget about it.
Exactly. It's all judgment and looking down their noses.
Like their concern for the Maroonahs is just for show.
Yeah. Like they're trying to prove how moral they are without actually doing anything.
It's a way to avoid the real problem.
Right. Like those people over there are the problem, not us.
And by doing that, they become part of the problem.
Exactly. Their silence is like saying, this is okay.
And it's not just Mrs. Merriweather. The whole group is like that.
It's like this unspoken agreement to just keep things the way they are.
It's like when Mrs. Merriweather talks about forgiving the black community.
It's not real forgiveness, though.
No?
Yeah.
It's more like she's patting them on the head.
It's condescending. Like, be happy with what you have and don't complain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if they do speak up, they're labeled as troublemakers.
It's no wonder Miss Maudie snaps.
I know.
She can't just sit there and pretend everything's fine.
It's a big moment for her, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's like she's saying, we can't ignore this anymore.
It's like she's breaking free from all those Southern manners.
And showing us how angry she really is.
And you know what? I don't think Aunt Alexandra really minds.
You think she agrees with Miss Maudie?
Maybe just a little bit. Like deep down, she knows something's not right.
It's like a little crack in their perfect world.
Yeah, like maybe they're not all on the same page after all.
And then there's Scout caught in the middle.
Trying to figure it all out.
It's a lot for a kid to handle.
Especially when it's her own family involved.
She had this idea of Maycomb, you know, like it was this perfect place.
But now she's seeing the ugly truth.
And Tom Robinson's death that just shatters everything.
It shows her that good doesn't always win.
It shows her that the system is broken.
That it's rigged against people like Tom.
And Atticus, he just accepts it.
I know. It's kind of disturbing.
It makes you wonder, does he really think things can change?
Or has he just given up?
It's a tough question.
It is. It's like Harper Lee is asking us to think about it too.
Is Atticus a hero or is he a tragic figure?
And as we watch Scout going through all this, we see that real growth comes from facing the hard stuff.
It's not easy, but that's how we learn and change.
So at the end of this chapter, Scout's watching these women.
Yeah.
And she's trying to understand them.
Their reactions, their words, their silence.
And in that process, she's figuring out who she wants to be. You know, it's amazing how Lee uses this like boring missionary circle to show us how messed up Maycomb is.
Right. It's like this perfect little picture of their hypocrisy.
Totally. They're so worried about looking good that they forget to be decent human beings.
Like with the Maroonahs?
Exactly. It's all about making themselves feel good.
Yeah, like, look at us. We're helping these poor people far away.
But they don't want to deal with the problems in their own backyard.
It's easier to ignore the stuff that makes you uncomfortable.
And by doing that, they're basically saying it's okay.
Exactly. Their silence is like giving permission for injustice to continue.
It's like with Tom Robinson's death. The whole group just moves on.
Like it's nothing.
It's so cold. It's like they've turned off their feelings.
It shows you how deep this apathy runs, you know?
Yeah. Scary to think about.
But even in all this darkness, there are these little sparks of hope.
Like Miss Maudie.
Right. She can't just sit there and be quiet.
She has to speak up.
It's like she's saying enough is enough.
And Atticus, too. He just keeps fighting.
He never gives up on what he believes in.
Even when it seems like he's lost.
It's inspired.
It really is.
Yeah.
It shows you that one person can make a difference.
Even when everyone else is telling you to give up.
Exactly. So as we finish up this chapter,
Yeah.
what do you think the takeaway is?
Well, I think Lee is showing us that we all have a choice.
Okay.
We can choose to ignore the bad stuff, or we can choose to fight against it.
Like Atticus.
Like Miss Maudie, like Scout, you know?
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's the right thing to do.
This book is so powerful. It really makes you think.
It makes you question yourself.
Are we doing enough to make the world a better place?
Are we part of the problem, or are we part of the solution?
Those are big questions.
But they're important ones.
Well, thanks for joining me for another deep dive.
My pleasure.
It's always a great discussion.
Always.
We'll see you next time for another chapter of To Kill a Mockingbird.
Can't wait.